Hi, I just thought I'd make a little video today about becoming a musician or a professional musician, or someone that wishes to progress and end up and have a career playing music. I had a really interesting discussion last night with a student of mine, and it turned into something really interesting. So I thought it would be worth talking about some of my experiences, and hope that's probably helps you on your way a little bit. This is a video for people who do want to become a professional musician, not the casual player, not someone who just wants to be in a band and have a knockabout, but someone who wants to, they want to get into playing, they want to have a career doing this. So that's what this video is about: how to really get there quicker, to arrive at that place where you can basically make money strapping on one of these babies. So this is just my worldview. This is just the way I see it. If you speak to someone else, they'll give you a different. They'll give you their worldview, and that's equally as valid. And this is just the world the way I see it. So, as I say, what I want to do is to pass on some advice as how you can get to where you want to be as quickly as possible. Okay, let's start beginning. The first point I want to make is practice. If you want to get to where you want to be, you've got to practice. Pat Metheny was once asked in an interview, how much did he practice when he was young? And he basically said, until he couldn't stay awake any longer, until he fell asleep. And well, that's the answer really. You just got to put as much hours and as time into this as you can possibly put into it. You've just got to play night and day. You've got to get up early. You've got to go to bed late and just have that guitar in your hand, constantly learning new things. And it's not just about practicing anything. You've got to be quite specific about what you practice. And I spent at least 3 years of my life just practicing at least 8 hours a day, every day, without fail. Very rarely will I get to the point where I'd miss a day. Where I went wrong was I didn't necessarily practice the right things. And I think this can be said of a lot of guitar players, is that what guitar players did, certainly what I did, I tended to practice a lot of technique things. I wanted to play fast and I wanted to, play lots of notes and that kind of thing. And that wasn't really the right thing to do. And I'd go as far as to say I actually spent years, I wasted years learning technique stuff when I should have been doing other stuff. And the other stuff I should have been doing is my second point. The thing you should be developing isn't so much this. It isn't so much as technique and that kind of stuff and playing fast and all that. The thing you should be developing are these. You should be developing your ears. My experience is without doubt, and there are very few exceptions to this, all the best musicians that I've ever come across got where they were because of their ears. They had really sharp ears. They could hear chord progressions, they could hear intervals, they could hear phrases and just rip them off. They could hear something and almost immediately play it. They could hear a chord progression and instantly know what that chord progression is. Developing your ears is by far and away the most beneficial thing you can do. There's loads of advice for that on kind of websites and YouTube sites, so I'm not going to go into what the specifics of that. But all I will say is develop your ears, transcribe songs, learn how to reproduce melodies. All of us want to be great guitar players. The whole purpose of what we're doing is we want to express ourselves. We want to get this stuff that's going on up here and channel it through this guitar and then push it out towards an audience. And to do that, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to come up with an idea in your head and then be able to reproduce that on the guitar and then put it through an amp and then your audience can hear it. And that is the process. So that's what you should be doing. You should be hearing it and then being able to reproduce it. A lot of players that I'm hearing are just kind of picking up the guitar and noodling around, and not putting any thought into what they're doing, and their fingers are doing the talking. And that's the wrong way to play a guitar. It's the wrong way to play any instrument. And I see a lot of guitar players and their phrasing is really poor. It's really, really poor. They're just putting lots of notes ahead of saying something interesting. We've all come across Guthrie Govan, and Guthrie Govan is probably the highest example of how to do it right. I mean, his phrasing is astonishing, absolutely astonishing, even at astonishing speeds. But that's because his ears are incredible. They're absolutely incredible. And he can hear this stuff and instantly reproduce it. It's like the guitar is part of him. So he thinks of an idea and he's instantly able to reproduce it on a guitar. And that's what you should be able to do. But to do that, you've got to develop your ears. Okay, moving on. The next point, different styles. You've got to keep an open mind. You've got to get into every style. Rock, country, blues, jazz, pop music, everything. Don't turn your nose up at any style of music because there's something to be gleaned from each and every one of those things. Get yourself in a country band. Get yourself in a blues band. Get yourself in a jazz band, whatever. I'll come back to jazz because that's quite important. Music college. What have I got to say about music college? Again, this is just my opinion and this is my attitude. I don't think you need to go to music college. I don't think it's strictly speaking necessary. I think this day and age, with what you've got on YouTube and teaching materials that are available to you in this day, I don't think it's necessary to spend 3 years or 2 years or 1 year in a music college. What you need is a very good private teacher and time. And then everything else you need to know is on YouTube. I really don't think that going to a music college is time well spent. I really don't. But that's just my opinion. Other people will tell you different and will have a different experience. I think your time is better spent getting out in a band and playing with people in the real world. Right, let's get on to jazz. Learn to play jazz. You don't have to be a particular fan of jazz, but when you play jazz, or to be able to play jazz, I should say, you need to know a whole lot of stuff. It's very challenging. It develops your ear. It develops your technique, and by necessity, you have to know a lot of music theory. You have to get that together, and obviously it improves your improvisation skills. So jazz, really, really important. On the flip side of that, play other styles. Don't get exclusively hung up on jazz. For me, and again, this is just my opinion, all the best jazz musicians aren't the people who play jazz all the time. Because jazz for me is about what you bring to the party. And so musicians that play all different styles of music make the best jazz musicians because they bring more to the party. They've got more ideas, they've got more influences, and it makes what's coming out the speaker or coming out the horn or whatever far more interesting than people who are just sort of locked into that jazz world, who just seem to be reiterating the same ideas over and over again. Develop your style. What I used to do, and I think this was a really, really good thing for me, was what I did when I was much younger is I made a cassette tape. This was in the days of cassettes. And on that tape, I put about 20 guitar solos, just guitar solos that I particularly liked. There was some Larry Carlton on there, there was some Robin Ford on there, there was some Alan Murphy, some Gary Moore, of particular solos that I liked. And then I would learn every one of those solos, and then every day I would go through that tape. And it would be a real struggle at first, but after a while, after months and months and months of just going over and over and over that tape, that's what my style is now. My style is almost a conglomeration of all those guitar solos that I particularly liked at that time, and subsequently I've added to that. But that was a very, very useful thing for me to do. Play more than one instrument. Don't just get hung up on a guitar. You should definitely learn to sing, whether you can sing or not. Singing is really important. For example, you should be able to sing every scale that you think you know. If you can't sing it, you don't know it. If you can't sing a dominant 7th scale, if you can't sing a minor 7th scale, you don't really know it. And that is critical. That's absolutely critical. You may think that you know a minor 7th arpeggio, but if you can't sing it, you don't really know it. And that is, I tell that to all my students, it's absolutely true. If you're improvising with a particular scale, you can't sing it, then what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. Sing. In the workplace, you'll always be ahead of the pack if you can sing a little. You can sing backing vocals, or you can sing a few lead vocals, stuff. Learn how to sing. It's really useful. Learn how to play piano. If you're a guitarist, learn to play bass, because bass and guitar, it's pretty much the same thing. It's a completely different head, but if you're a piano player, you've got to have all that together, so there's no reason why you shouldn't do that as a guitar player. So don't think of as bass guitar and this kind of electric guitar we see here as different instruments. They're not. They're part of the same thing, so learn them both. Really useful to learn a horn. The reason I say that is it's a monophonic instrument. That it's a different way of approaching music, and I've had some fabulous conversations with sax players and trumpet players who have their own approach to playing music, which is like completely different to my own. And it's a bit late for me now, but if I was younger, I'd definitely take up saxophone or something like that. Probably sax for me, but anyway, there you go. Always play with people that are better than you. When you're the best person in the band, you're not learning anything anymore. And don't be afraid of putting yourself in scary situations. I've been in many, many scary situations over the years. Don't be afraid. Get out and play with as many different types of people and learn absolutely everything you can. Write music. It's a fantastic form of expression and puts you in the mindset of people who maybe you're in a band and you're an originals band and you're playing other people's songs. It puts you in that mindset. It's a great thing to be able to do. Always be well presented. Don't turn up scruffy. I know that's an obvious thing, but it does kind of need saying, really. I see it all the time where musicians, they just turn up scruffy. They don't look good. You always have to look good in life, no matter what you're doing, and it's certainly no exception when you're a musician. Look smart. Yeah, that's an obvious one. And lastly, I'm going to say, listen. Listen to as much music as you possibly can, of all different sorts. Classical music, jazz, just absolutely everything. Take in as much as you possibly can. Don't just get locked into a niche of rock music or jazz music or blues music. Just listen to as much stuff as you possibly can and try and figure it out. Figure out what is it about that kind of music that makes it sound like it does, and then add that to your portfolio of stuff you can do. Okay, that's just a few ideas. Hope that's kind of been helpful. But the biggest point I want to make there is don't waste time. Don't waste time practicing that's fun, the things that are fun to do. Practice the things that are going to benefit you the most. And the things that are going to benefit you the most are nearly always the things that are the hardest. Like reading music, for example. If you're intent on being a professional musician, you've got to read music. It's not optional. You've got to read music. That's the language in which professional musicians converse with each other. You'll always find people who get away with not being able to do it, but don't be one of those. Learn how to read music. It's really, really important. Okay, that's all I've got to say for the moment, and if I get any more ideas, I'll make another video and stick it on there. Okay, speak soon.